Good morning. Today is August the 17th of the year 2026, Monday. And today we have a fresh episode of the Dear Church podcast. And on this episode, we are going to talk about, this is part 3 of 3 on baptism. And today we are discussing the Baptist view on baptism from a biblical standpoint. And so we'll discuss the arguments that the Baptist view has on baptism. And we have some other segments. We saw the Odyssey. We saw it.
Number 2 movie right now.
Number 2 movie, like in the polls? Like
No, gross box office.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
What about net?
What's wrong with you?
And we'll talk about the Odyssey and AOC. So there it is. We'll talk about baptism and then those other 2 topics this morning. You are listening to the Dear Church podcast. Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene, Chunsuk, and Brian. And today, again, we are continuing on in our mini 3-part episode series, I guess you could say, on baptism. Last week, hold on. Sorry, I had a little phlegm.
Brian's editing this week, right?
Yeah, but no cuts today. I mean, I'm not gonna be funny. Unless Brian's trying to be funny with me.
Are we not doing the jokes anymore?
It's just they weren't good jokes, I feel like. You know?
I missed our joke segment.
I
Should we do jokes?
No, they weren't good jokes.
Should we do jokes?
Wait, they were legitimately not. Like, I would love to do a funny joke.
What? All right, here you go. Here's a joke.
Oh.
How do you think the unthinkable?
How do I think the unthinkable? You can't. It's unthinkable.
Brian, how do you think the unthinkable?
This is gonna be some dad joke or something.
With an iceberg.
I don't get it. Oh, the individual had a lisp. Anyway, so the last 2 weeks we have been talking about baptism, and 2 weeks ago we explained the Presbyterian view on baptism, and then last week we talked about the Roman Catholic view and our responses to the Roman Catholic view. And this week, again, we are talking about the Baptist view. This is what you have been waiting for. And I think this is the most anticipated view because, you know, so many of our brothers and sisters are Baptists in the sense of Reformed Baptists are perhaps closer to us in doctrine and theology than other liberal Presbyterians even.
Oh, yeah. Reformed Baptists are our closest cousins. You've heard that before, right?
No, we're cousins?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
You can't marry any Baptist because they're your first cousins.
But, you know, and so we're so close yet so far, which is why this topic, I think, can be one that is pretty hyped up. And so as a review, we've talked about baptism as being a sign and seal, a mark of the church instituted by our Lord Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 28, a.k.a. the Great Commission. And so as Christians, we receive baptism symbolizing our mark as the church, as the new sign of the covenant sealed in Christ's blood, given to believers and their children, just like we saw in the Old Covenant with Abraham in the sign of circumcision. So it is the continuation of the sign of the Old Covenant, which was made with Abraham. Now, I kind of wanted to go in a couple different directions here. I want to talk about the London Baptist Confession of Faith. We'll talk about the SBC. And then there's a great paper, actually, that I read from Founders Ministries, which is where we had Vodi Bakum, right? Vodi's from Founders, I think. Yeah, right? Yeah, Vodi Bakum, Tom Askell. And so those guys are really faithful Baptists. And so there's a paper on there that I was looking at that was really helpful too. And so we'll just kind of start with just from the ground floor. This is the 1689 London Baptist Confession of Faith, which is kind of like the Westminster Confession of Faith for Baptists, if you will.
It's exactly the same except for the baptism part.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's exactly the same, except
Maybe
for the
I should have
baptism
led off
part.
with that.
Okay.
So, you know what it is, right? It's the same exact thing as the Westminster Confession. Did you know actually that it's the same? Did you know that it was actually the same as the Westminster Confession of Faith, except for the baptism portion? Yeah, I mean we know that. So this is the 1689 London Baptist Confession of Faith, and it reads. Baptism is an ordinance of the New Testament ordained by Jesus Christ to be unto the party baptized, a sign of his fellowship with him in his death and resurrection, of his being engrafted into him, of remission of sins, and of giving up into God through Jesus Christ to live and walk in newness of life. And they also note that those who do actually profess repentance towards God, faith in, and obedience to our Lord Jesus Christ are the only proper subjects of this ordinance. As a note here, Presbyterians would also believe in this, in the sense of Presbyterians also believe in believer's baptism. But we also include our children in the covenant as covenant children, as they did in the old covenant. And I think, the common misconception is that Presbyterians just disagree outright who can be baptized. It's not true. We also believe that believers are baptized, but we go beyond that, right, to say that the children of believers as well are baptized. So I guess just starting from there, how would you respond to this, to the London Baptist Confession?
Well, I think ultimately their definition, again, Reformed Baptists are our closest cousins in the faith.
Yes.
Obviously, brothers and sisters would be other Presbyterians, but they are our closest cousins and people who we admire and respect deeply.
Yeah.
We differ on this, which has actually led to a lot of divide in ecclesiology. Not soteriology necessarily.
No.
But ecclesiology and just our understanding of the sacraments. But Baptists would not use the language that we did to define baptism, because we call baptism a sign and seal. They wouldn't use that language. Okay, it's an ordinance, like you said, given to those who make a credible profession.
Yep.
But it's not a sign and seal necessarily. They would, in fact, they might say a sign, but they wouldn't say a seal.
But doesn't the language of sign and seal have to do with covenant theology? Couldn't a Reformed Baptist say, "Oh, we also believe in covenant theology, but we just believe that the two covenants are discontinuous"?
Yeah, I mean, it'll get tripped up, or it'll be confusing. I think it's not that they don't believe that.
Yeah,
it's because they'll get tripped up in, let's say, some of the understandings that we have because we know it's a sign and seal.
Right.
It'll get tripped up in the course of the progression that you have to, if you start from sign and seal, it'll progress to other things.
Okay.
And that's what we'll see, hopefully, as we continue on in this podcast.
Yeah. The London Baptist Confession continues. Immersion or dipping of the person in water is necessary to the due administration of this ordinance. And I thought this was really interesting. Again, Presbyterians can also dip as well or immerse. We just think that sprinkling is sufficient. But should there be a lake, you could dip, right? If we had a lake in our backyard, which is we wouldn't in Teaneck.
If there was like a pool.
Like a swimming one?
Like a swimming pool, sure. There's
You
water there.
you could baptize in a swimming pool?
Sure, why not?
There's chlorine in there.
Yeah, it's just water.
But it's chlorinated though. It's not.
It's just not real water.
I mean, it's just not natural.
I mean, I guess you probably wouldn't want to put in anything that'll change it too much, but if you want to keep the cleanliness of the water, it's no problem.
That's true.
If you put like high C in there or fruit punch, that might change.
That
might be weird. If you like dip some money in high C and say it's still fruit punch or it's still water.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's, but this is where they get it from. This is Matthew chapter 3, verse 16. And when Jesus was baptized, immediately he went up from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and coming to rest on him. And John chapter 3, verse 23, John also was baptizing at Aenon near Salem because water was plentiful there and people were coming and getting baptized. And being baptized. And so what they see is the regulative principle, aka what we see explicitly in Scripture, is that baptism was done in the water where you immerse the person in the water, then you bring them back up. And so that's why they believe that this is the only way to do it. But Presbyterians do not agree with this. Why do we not agree with this? Why do we think that sprinkling is sufficient when what we see in the Bible seems to be immersion?
Yeah. The mode and meaning are tied together for Baptists, which is great. I appreciate that again. For the Presbyterians, the mode is secondary, the meaning is primary. So again, very close, but it leads to very different outcomes. So the mode and meaning are tied for Baptists, but the mode for Presbyterians is secondary, where the meaning is primary.
But where do we even decide that? Because I think someone could say, oh, you Presbyterians are so regulative principle. You want to worship in the way that the Bible instructs, and that's good. How come with this, you kind of get a little flexible?
For the mode?
Right.
I mean, it is something that we saw throughout history. It's something that we would imagine is in the Bible. So, people have, you also in the previous podcast, talked about baptizo, meaning dip. And dip doesn't mean necessarily immerse the entire body. If you, what is it that R.C. Sproul used? He used the example from baptizo.
The bird.
With the bird.
Yep.
If you dip, you're not immersing. Yeah, you're not immersing the bird in like its blood because there's barely any blood.
Because one of the requirements for, I think it was requirements for sacrifice was you have to take a bird, kill it, then drain its blood, and then baptizo the other bird in the blood of the first bird. But technically, when you look at it, that first bird would not have enough blood for the entirety of the second bird to be completely dunked.
Yeah. So Presbyterians see that as then the meaning being primary, mode being secondary, meaning you do what you can. But at the same time, Baptists would probably argue that these are exceptions to the rule. So
Right.
the rule is there.
The standard is still there.
The standard is there, but you just couldn't do it there. But you have to do it. So I don't think Baptists, I shouldn't say all Baptists. Some Baptists would not completely reject if you weren't totally immersed. If you weren't totally immersed, if you were in some kind of, very trying, acute situation and you needed to get baptized, I don't think they would reject that baptism.
But that's a extenuating circumstance, though.
Right, just like the bird.
Right.
Like you didn't have the means to fully
immerse
the bird in the other bird's blood, right?
Right.
So it's, the standard is that's how they would argue.
Yeah. So how do we, because the thing is, I know that Presbyterians can immerse, like we're not against immersing, but we don't immerse though.
Yeah.
And it's not like we are at a lack of water, right? So then why don't we immerse?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we have to see as primarily distinguishing us between the Presbyterians and the Baptists and even the Reformed Baptists is our understanding of covenant theology, like you said before, and we should go to that. And that's where we will separate. And then we could go to history for that, but what is the primary difference? The primary difference is our understanding of covenant theology, like you said, from Abraham, but I argued that it will go back to Noah and even Adam, where everything that you do, your child also gets, right? Whether it's a blessing or a curse, it just happens. Yeah. And so the Baptists will say this is a completely different thing, but covenant theology runs throughout Scripture, and the new covenant now in Christ isn't a discontinuance of the old covenant, but it is a fulfillment of the old covenant, meaning it's now we see what it was supposed to be, but even in a broader sense. That's why we have women baptized, whereas women weren't circumcised, things like that.
Right. So what you're saying then is in the context of the immersion, we treat the immersion as secondary to the primary, which is the meaning of it, because of our anchor in covenant theology.
So let me get to some history. There's an old document that is dated back to the 1st century. It's called the Didache. Yeah. And the Didache is called the Didache because it means teaching, but it's teaching by the apostles. Yeah. Again, it's not inerrant. We don't consider this scripture. So we don't consider it inerrant or infallible, but it is a historical piece of evidence that we have that the church used throughout, history. Didache does actually address some, catechumenate issues, right? What happens to the catechumen and who gets baptized and things like that. And so Baptists will actually use the Didache and will say, look, in the instruction of baptism, it's only those that profess or have a valid confession that get baptized. So although Reformed Baptists will say the Bible is the ultimate authority, but here, if you want some historical evidence, here it is. There's no stipulation for children.
Yeah.
Children are not mentioned in the Didache.
Yeah.
And so they'll say that and say, look, even in the first century church, we have evidence that it's mainly credo baptism.
Just adults.
People adults who confess.
Yeah.
And have a credible confession that Christ is, their Lord and Savior. And, the church receives them. Those are the people that get baptized because there's instruction for them.
Yeah.
So they'll use that. And they won't necessarily accept the fact that from the 2nd century and on, we do have record of infants being baptized. There was, even in the 1st century, I believe, and I could look this up, some back and forth between who could get baptized and, if we abuse, there's some abuse of infant baptism that some of the church fathers spoke out against.
Yeah.
But then Baptists will use that to say, look, this church father was against infant baptism. So it's also a matter of how you interpret some of the stuff. But my response to, let's say, certain Baptists using the Didache as, look, even, if you want to go to historical evidence, even the Didache doesn't have provisions for infant baptism, then I would say, well, then if you're going to use that as evidence, you can't reject other things, because although it doesn't prohibit infants, it doesn't, allow for infants, either or, right?
Yeah.
There's no prohibition, but there's no instruction to
right.
But at the same time, there is instruction on mode in the Didache. So if they're going to use that, then maybe you should look at what they said about the mode. The mode is, if you have running water, use that. But if not, use stale water. If you don't have cold water, then use warm water. All that stuff.
Warm water would be nice.
But I'm saying it'll be like if all that stuff isn't there, then it makes for you use what you have basically, because the Didache was teaching you, this is nice. It's nice to do this, but if you don't have that, you could do this instead, because total immersion is not then.
It's good, but not necessary.
Sure. Which goes to the Presbyterian view, which means that the meaning is primary, mode is secondary. And so adopting that philosophy and that logic, that line of thinking, the Presbyterians understand that if the mode is secondary, then we must hold on to the meaning.
Yeah.
And the meaning is that this is a sign and seal of the covenant of grace that we have received in Jesus Christ, okay? And so because of that, I would say the Presbyterians do have a strong argument because of the mode. I know we went through infant versus credo, pedo versus credo, but for whatever reason, they're all tied together. And I looked this up, and from the 1600s, when the Baptists decided that, we didn't go far enough in the Reformation, because, all the Reformation fathers, they were pedo. And so they believe that so by the time the London Confession came out, when the 1600s came in, even before the London Confession, this sect of people, this group believed that the Reformation didn't go far enough. They still left some dregs of the Roman, papacy and its heretical practices, including infant baptism. So that's why they thought we didn't go far enough. So they came out with that, and the result of that is the London Baptist Confession. Would you say 1689, right?
Yeah,
but before that, they had some other documents that they put out in the early 1600s.
Yeah.
And 1689 was the finalized one.
The Roman Catholics hold to infant baptism because you need baptism to be saved, right? And so they want their children to be saved, and that's why they they baptize them and they hold on to it. And I think as to your comments on the mode, if we don't have too much time now to get more depth into it, but there's a great segment in a book called Presbyterian Distinctives by Thomas Witherow that I think that Jonathan Gibson edited most recently, I believe. Was that like 4 years ago now? 5 years ago? Sorry? Called I Will Build My Church. Presbyterian Distinctives.
Edited by, yeah.
Yeah, so if you would take a look at that, that's been really, really helpful. He goes through some practical steps to kind of explain the Presbyterian position. And so for the sake of time, we will move on, but that's a great resource for our listeners as well. This is the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, which is a SBC's statement of faith. And the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, is probably the most popular and well-known collection of Baptist churches. Of course, they don't have,
They're one of the biggest denominations in the United States, the SBC.
Is it a denomination?
Yeah.
Would they call themselves that? Because
they're a gathering of churches, but they are a denomination, yeah.
A coalition, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it reads regarding baptism. Christian baptism is the immersion of a believer in water in the name of the Father.
Where does the immersion come from?
I don't know. Christian baptism is the immersion of a believer in water in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is an act of obedience symbolizing the believer's faith in a crucified, buried, and risen Savior, the believer's death to sin, the burial of the old life, and the resurrection to walk in newness of life in Christ Jesus. It is a testimony to his faith in the final resurrection of the dead. Being a church ordinance, it is prerequisite to the privileges of church membership and to the Lord's Supper. So very similar. We wouldn't really disagree with this outside of the fact of
infants.
Right. They don't say anything actually of infants here.
Well, infants can't make that profession, so they wouldn't be part of it. But we
Right,
would
right,
say
right.
infants of those that made the credible profession would
Right.
also be received into the membership.
Right.
So the Baptist Church will not, the only members of the Baptist Church, meaning those that get the full privileges of the church, are the people that are baptized, and the only people that can get baptized are the ones that could have a credible profession that is affirmed by the church.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have infants in that group.
No.
Okay.
That's a helpful distinction. So very similar to the London Baptist Confession, and I want to kind of shift gears here and go to this founder's paper called The Critical Evaluation of Paedobaptism, which I thought was very, very helpful to kind of understand the Baptist perspective. And the author writes this: Paedobaptists, while rightly affirming the fundamental and underlying unity of the covenant of grace in all ages, wrongly press that unity in a way that distorts and suppresses the diversity of the several administrations of that covenant in history. To put it another way, Paedobaptists rightly emphasize the inner continuity of the various administrations of the covenant of grace, while wrongly neglecting the various external discontinuities which exist between those administrations. To put it still a third way, Paedobaptists rightly stress the unity of redemptive history while wrongly ignoring the movement of that redemptive history. Thus, their error is fundamentally one of biblical theology, of understanding the progressive unfolding of God's redemptive purposes in history. So I've heard this phrase, the progressive unfolding of God's redemptive purpose, multiple times in Baptist arguments, right? They believe that the covenant, the old covenant and the new covenant, there's a progression. We've made progress from the old. And so in the paper, what this author tries to do is note the discontinuities between the old and new covenant. And so for us, we would say that the old and new covenant are connected in that they are a covenant from God to his people, and it is a marking. As circumcision was a marking and a sign and seal of that marking, baptism is the same thing. Baptists would not believe that. And
No.
they think that they're two different things. And I thought some of the arguments that this author made were pretty good, and so I was hoping that we could respond to them.
Sure.
And so, the thesis is that there are discontinuities between the Old and New Covenant, meaning that there are also discontinuities between baptism, between the signs of those covenants, a.k.a. circumcision and baptism. And so this author uses Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31 to 34 to prove this point. And it reads, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant that they broke. though I was their husband, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I'll write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And no longer shall each one teach his neighbor and each his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. The argument that Baptists will make in regards to this text is the discontinuity between the old and the new. So if you remember from this text in Jeremiah, it's not like the covenant that I made. So already the new is different from the old. And also, they will all know me from the least of them to the greatest. The argument that this author is making is, in the old covenant, people were circumcised that were not believers. Example, Ishmael. Dude is like the father of Islam. He was circumcised. However, what we're saying is there are people within that Israel community that were circumcised that did not know God. But in this new covenant, they will all know him because he has regenerated their hearts. They will all know him from the least of them to the greatest. Therefore, this new covenant is made with only regenerate elect individuals versus the group descendants of Abraham in the old.
Okay.
So that's the argument that they're trying to make, that there is a continuity, right? Also the fact that the old covenant was breakable because they broke it, whereas the new one is unbreakable because everyone within or under this new covenant are elect.
Okay.
So what this person is saying is that circumcision and baptism can't be the same, because circumcision was everybody. Baptism, it seems like, if it's a sign of the new covenant, is only for the elect.
Yeah, that would be reading into what you already believe. So they already believe it, they're reading into it. So if you were saying, oh, this is this and this is this, like you said, I won't repeat what you said.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then I would say Jeremiah 31 is talking about the Holy Spirit and the knowledge of God coming through the Holy Spirit in a way that has never been done before. Because you had to go to, let's say, the prophet, and you had to go through, or the other mediums, mediators. But now we have one mediator, and we have direct access to God through Jesus Christ. I think that's how the Presbyterian might see that verse, right? Give us a new heart, because we finally have the new heart that we need so that we can commune with God, and that's given to us through Jesus Christ. If you're talking about that, and let's say a covenantal sign.
So you're saying they're reading the sign into the text.
Yeah. And so if you're saying that the covenantal sign is different now because of Jeremiah 31, that would be a jump for me. Only because, let's say, you have to already see that the covenant is a discontinuity. Not see that, because of Jeremiah 31, the covenant is discontinuity. You already see that it's a discontinuity, so you see Jeremiah 31 as a discontinuance rather, whereas, I should say, the Presbyterian or, another Reformed person might see this, or you don't even have to be Presbyterian, just not a Baptist, would see this as a continuing of the covenant, meaning now we see the fulfillment, like in Hebrews. Before there was a shadow, now we see it in full. The shadow is not the thing, right? The shadow is not the thing, so there is a difference. However, the shadow isn't not the thing either. So you can't say the shadow isn't shadow's nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, right? And so, this discontinuity is a complete break from what God has been doing because of Jesus Christ. And that's how the Baptists see it, right? Jesus Christ gives you a complete break of everything that God has done in the past and gives us something brand new, right? And so this brand new thing is baptism. This brand new thing is baptism. And, it's something that we have to do for credo believers.
So I guess, and I'm channeling my inner Baptist here, which I'll try my best, because one of the things that I
you do have an inner Baptist.
No, I'm saying,
so you finally admit it.
No.
I guess you can't get ordained.
No. What I'm saying is, that accusation that R.C. Sproul had, where he would represent the other side so well that the other side would just say, that's right, what we believe, and then he would destroy their argument.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Maybe I made that up.
Yeah.
So
It's called steel manning. It's
I
just
don't know
a
what
thing
that
that you do.
means.
Instead of straw
There's man
manning
of steel.
something, you want to steel man the argument, and then attack the argument after you put it in the steel man position, instead of straw manning something, which is
You weaken it.
You come up with an argument that's not even real, and then you attack
right.
a straw man, which is not the real person.
Because it's easier to attack a straw man than a steel man or a man of steel. Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
But so someone could respond, okay, if the signs are different though, like if there is discontinuity, or you said there's a new sign, or it's a new covenant, why do the signs have to connect? Why necessarily do they have to connect? If it's new, wouldn't it be a new sign?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's new, wouldn't you have a new sign? And we do. It's called baptism.
Baptism, right.
Right. But then the discontinuity is so great, we're saying. It completely breaks from our understanding of covenant theology. Meaning this is how God has characteristically always done things.
Yeah.
But then for the Baptists, it wouldn't matter, right? And for everyone else, it does matter, because the continuity shows that God doesn't completely disregard the past. He's building, and he's building up to the culmination of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ, fulfills, and he completes. I wouldn't necessarily say he abolishes anything, but he would complete it. So in a sense, although Baptists believe that they are more progressive, the Presbyterians believe that they're more progressive in their understanding of baptism, because now the sign and seal is given to all those in the household, if you believe. I hope that makes sense, right? Whereas before, it was only to males and their infant males, right?
Yeah, so we progress from that.
So the progressive side then would be really given to Presbyterians. Baptists have become more narrow, meaning there's less people who would get this sign.
Yeah.
Right, because you have to make this credible profession of faith, whereas in circumcision or even Noah's Ark or even Adam, you didn't. By birth, you would get the sign,
right?
But then you could reject it as time goes on, which always has happened. So always, by birth, you could have received the faith, grown up in the faith, and then when you came of age, you could have rejected it, which people do that we see in the Bible.
So I think in response to that, I'd like to read John chapter 1, verse 11 and 13. And it reads, "He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God." And so here, a Baptist would think that here we see another example of the discontinuity between the new and the old and the new. In which the old is simply talking about the invisible church, whereas the old talked about the visible church. Meaning, the old talked about all of Israel, and here the new is simply talking about the elect. So if that's the case, if the new is only about the elect, why would we give someone that we don't know that's elect the sign of the elect covenant?
Well, I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that, because you don't know who's the elect.
Right.
Only God knows.
Right.
So the sign isn't given to those that the church knows is elect. That's an impossibility.
You wouldn't know.
What are the standards then?
Sure.
So I'm sure Baptists will agree with me on that one too.
Yeah.
What are the standards that we have so that we would administer baptism to certain people? And that standard, I'm telling you, is defined by our understanding of the covenant.
Yeah.
Our understanding of covenant theology. It has nothing to do with us understanding who the elect is. We don't know who the elect is. And so, but that understanding of covenant theology will also help us recognize who the elect is, in a sense, meaning who gets the rights administered to, sacraments, things like that. Who gets all that? Who gets the benefits of membership? So Presbyterians and everybody else, I should say, everybody else believes that believers and their children get admitted into the church membership, the visible church, because every benefit that the church can offer is given to them. Baptists don't believe that. The church is made up only of members, meaning those that have made a credible profession, that the church has affirmed. Again, they take it very seriously because of Matthew 18, the keys of heaven are given to, what's bound in earth is bound in heaven. So they take it very seriously.
Right.
And infants are not in the membership, but they are under the membership's care.
Yeah.
So they'll use language like that. So they are under our care, but they are not part of us.
Right.
Not yet, until they
right,
make
right.
the credible profession themselves.
Yeah.
So they'll do what they can to raise their children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, but they are not part of the Lord's, not yet.
Yeah.
So they are not God's until they make a credible profession. And that has a lot to do with understanding who the elect is then, and where we can have confidence who the elect is. I hope that makes sense.
So I guess one way of just looking at this practically is, it seems like from the Baptist point of view, if you really believe that the elect are in the new covenant is only for the elect, and the sign of the new covenant is baptism, it would make sense that you baptize elect people. That makes sense. But once we start saying you baptize also the children of these people that have professed faith, right? Aren't we going a step too far? Isn't it better to be safe than to baptize somebody just because they're children of people that have professed the faith? Like, I guess, where is what is so bad about not baptizing somebody for 10 years and then baptizing them because we believe that you have to be a believer to be included in the new covenant?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
So what you have touched upon is what even a lot of Presbyterians might feel. Mm-hmm. And so they won't baptize their children until they're older.
Like, it's not that bad. Like, it's just 10 years.
I'm telling you, that is a misunderstanding of covenant theology. Mm-hmm. So if you are a Presbyterian and you don't push back, if you're a Presbyterian and you don't baptize your children and you kind of adopt, let's take the safer route, what you are then, silently affirming is the Baptistic view.
Yeah.
Then you should leave Presbyterianism and join a Baptist church.
Yeah.
You should go and fully dunk a kid when they're of age, and you should go into Congregationalism. You should let go of your Presbyterian membership if you really believe that. But I'm telling you, people kind of want to walk on both lines, and I'm saying there is a clear distinction that we have to make and we have to understand about covenant theology, that we're continually coming back to it, because this is our understanding of what God is doing in redemptive history. It's not something completely new and all of a sudden it's something that we don't understand, and so we have to keep on looking to the Bible to get the only understanding is only from the New Testament. It's a fulfillment, meaning the completion is going through the old to the new post Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So that's how we see the covenant of God run through. And I do believe that infants are in a sense of our discussion, it's at the core of our discussion. Infants, what we believe about infants. So if you say, I'm not going to give them the baptism, then you do not believe then ultimately that baptism is a sign and seal. You won't. Because you have to make the credible profession to get the sign, then put them into the membership. But the seal part, why is the seal part difficult for Baptists? Because seal is always given to those that it is a passive act that you receive, and a seal is given by God to those that he says we should administer to. And that's why we believe in 1 Corinthians 7 that as it is, your children are holy. That's what Paul would say to the Corinthians. Baptists don't receive that with that meaning, by the way, obviously.
Can I just talk about that real quick? Because I thought that point was fascinating. So in that text, and I have a lot more to ask, but in that text in particular, because you brought it up, the 1 Corinthians 7 verse 14, and I'll read that for us. And it reads, "For the unbelieving husband is made holy because of his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy because of her husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy." Okay, that same word holy is also used for unbelieving husband and unbelieving wife. The question that Baptists would ask is, if you're going to baptize your unbelieving children that are holy, why not baptize your unbelieving husband that is also holy?
Because they are of age, right? Because they will reject it. If they want to receive it, they'll receive it. That's how normal people would think about it.
Yeah.
But again, baptism for the Baptist is such an active act. You have to have that confession before receiving the sign and seal.
Yeah.
For the Presbyterian and everybody in the Old Testament, for the Presbyterian, so the continuity is there. It's a passive act.
Yes.
You're part of us, you get baptized. That's
we're
what it is.
marking you because you're already a part
You're
of us.
a part of us.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get
yeah,
baptized.
yeah.
And if you're going to get baptized, you should know this and this.
Yes.
The catechumen process is still there.
Yeah.
Don't mind you. We're going to teach you about the faith. We'll raise you in the faith.
Yeah.
And the credible profession is still going to be there, but it's all part of that whole thing.
Yeah.
But whereas the Baptists will say the credible profession is the pinnacle, it's the height.
Yep,
This is why you
yep.
get baptized.
Yep.
For the Presbyterian, and again, for everybody in the past, it's a passive act. It's a whole journey that you're on. And the Presbyterians also have, I don't know if the word succumb is right, but we've given into this understanding that you have to have this moment of faith, like this moment where you're like, I'm a believer now. Whereas I think for most of history, it's more about who you are. Are you a Christian? Why are you a Christian? Oh, my parents are Christian. We grew up Christian. I'm a Christian. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Absolutely.
Right.
But my parents are Christian. That's why I'm a Christian. Like, people would have said that in the past. But to the Baptist, that's gobbledygook. That's like, you can't receive that, again, because what do my parents' faith have to do with me? It has to be my own credible profession of faith that distinguishes me as a believer.
Yeah.
That's what they'll say. Again, great, but the reason why it is distinguished from us is because we really see the sign and seal as a passive act. We receive it. We receive the sign and seal. It's God sealing us because now we are going to be walking in the covenant community of faith. So you get received into the visible church. So my faith doesn't make me stand out. It's because I have been signed and sealed. That's what makes me stand out, in a sense, okay?
Okay.
I want to get back to the infant part, if that's okay, and you can come back to the 1 Corinthians 7. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 7, obviously, the people, Baptists believe that it's only made with the regenerate. So if you're not regenerate, you can never get this. So it's not just about husbands, and why don't you give them? Because they're not regenerate, that's how they would automatically think. But if you wanted to, again, it's the whole idea of this passive act of receiving, right? And so one thing that the Baptists will not say then is, or they will not have, is confidence that a child is saved because their parents are a believer.
Yeah.
They will not have confidence.
Yeah.
So if your child dies, and this is, I think, a key point that I wanted to make in this podcast, the difference between a Baptist and Presbyterian is the understanding of who goes to heaven.
Yeah.
And so, in a sense, there is some soteriology involved because of our understanding of covenant theology.
Sure.
So, and you can add to this. I'll just give you the quick briefer. Baptists, there's a spectrum. But Baptists, for the most part, will not say that they can have or Reformed Baptists, I should say, have confidence that their child or infant that died is in heaven. They will not have that confidence.
Because they don't have faith.
Because they didn't profess the faith. How would you know?
Right.
So it's just up to God if they're part of the elect or not.
Yeah.
The Presbyterian, however, will have confidence because they were part of you. So by your virtue, they have been brought into the covenant community until they can make their own profession, meaning they become an adult or they become responsible enough to carry out their own faith. Okay?
Okay.
So those are differences in understanding of covenant. I'll go to non-Reformed Baptists and some Reformed Baptists, like I think John Piper. I could be mistaken, so don't quote me on that. All children go to heaven. So some Baptists believe that because they are below the age of accountability. Because remember, this Baptist theology has them thinking that if you are of age, if you are in the age of accountability, then you can make the credible profession. But if you don't, then you're damned, right? If you don't, you're not redeemed. But if you do, you are redeemed. It's the credible profession at the age of accountability. So before the age of accountability, you can't make any credible profession. So because you can't make any credible profession, you are not responsible for your actions either. So you'll just go to heaven.
No disrespect to Baptists. This is no beef. Isn't that slightly work-based?
Yeah.
In the sense of you have to make this profession to be saved.
Yeah, I think there is some line there, whereas they might say this is a response to faith that you have. So if you see that there is a regenerative seed in your soul. It'll spring up as proof. Does that make sense? That confession is proof.
Can I read the quote by John Piper?
Yeah.
That you were just talking about. That our producer Junzuk just pulled up for us.
Nice, Junsuki.
He is. Yeah, I'm not going to continue. This is what John Piper says. The way I see it is that God ordains for his own wise purposes that at the judgment day all the children who died in infancy will be covered by the blood of Jesus, and they will come to faith either in heaven immediately or later in the resurrection. And God will not condemn them because he wants to manifest openly and publicly that he does not condemn those who do not have the mental capacities to put their faith in him. I don't think imbeciles have that capacity. I don't think babies do. Therefore, I hold out hope to parents that the loss of an infant is not their eternal loss. This is by John Piper.
Yeah, John Piper, again, holds to that where the broad Baptists believe, because you're not responsible for your actions before the age of accountability. Therefore, you are not in sin, which discounts original sin.
Right, I was going to say, it really mitigates the effects of original sin.
No, but he goes around it by saying those infants with original sin, because they couldn't commit the sin themselves, obviously they do, but before the age of accountability, it's not really. You have to get around that. The age of accountability is a big thing.
It's like slightly Pelagian.
And so he goes around it, around this gold mug. It goes around it and says all those people that are not in the age of accountability will be covered then by Jesus' blood. I don't even know how that's possible or where he got that from, but I will say that that is a broader Baptistic view on infants. So I'm telling you, I get it. We can argue about the whole covenant thing, but when we get to infants, we start to really divide on our understanding of who the elect is. So Reformed Baptists either are not confident that their baby is in heaven because they could be elect or not, or they have to go to this broad view where, before the age of accountability, all babies are covered with the blood of Jesus Christ, okay?
Yeah.
And so that is something that Presbyterians already answered, because we mark and seal our children because we already know that they are holy. By our marking and sealing, they are not holy. Again, we established that in our previous podcast. Our marking and sealing of our children as well as ourselves is not proof that we are saved. We do that because we know that they are saved.
So it's just a marking of the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, when your kid dies and you're a believer, we know that they are in the Lord's hands. So that is true comfort for, let's say, a believer
because they're within the
have
covenant.
Lost.
Right.
And this is
right.
It goes back to this Old Testament understanding that Baptists have an argument against, but that you brought up to me yesterday that you could bring up about David.
So one of the arguments that I heard is found in 2 Samuel chapter 12. And this is when David's son with the first son of David and Bathsheba dies. And if you recall from the narrative, David is very, very sad, and he is crying out to the Lord while the child is still alive. But the moment that he finds out that the child is dead, he gets up, he washes, and he eats. And the servants ask him in verse 21, then a servant said to him, "What is this thing that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child died, you rose and ate food." He said, "While the child was alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who knows whether the Lord will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he will not return to me." So people will take that text and say, this is talking about the fact that those who are within the covenant fold, babies within the covenant fold, go to heaven because of the fact that they're within the covenant fold. And so that's why David is saying he will go to see him, but he will not come to see me. This is held in contrast to when Absalom dies.
Yeah.
When he weeps for a long time because he knows that Absalom is not in heaven and he will not see him again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Baptists have an argument against that, which is either they don't engage with the text in this way, so it's just about physical death.
Yeah.
So David's just talking about physical death, which doesn't make sense, I think. It doesn't, because he's talking about me going to him.
Yeah, that wouldn't really, yeah.
But it's so, They'll say, I guess the argument is they'll talk about this as being, I was talking about the finality of death. We're missing
Right.
we're missing the poetic nuance that David is putting out here by thinking this is about infants just going to heaven. This is a poetic response to the finality of death. He's going to go to Sheol, right? And so that is something that they could use as an argument. And I don't think every Baptist sees this in the same way. I'm not saying that every Baptist will interpret this as the finality of death or the covenant, the not saving of the child or David being unsure. I don't know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Reformed Baptists will always go back to if the child is saved, it's surely by God's mercy. And has nothing to do with the covenantal status of the child.
Okay.
So it's by God's sheer mercy that David depended on, right? But David is confident of God's mercy, of course. So they'll say he's confident of God's mercy, but he's not confident in the covenantal status of his child. That's not what he was confident in.
That's what the Baptists would say.
Yeah. But we're saying that's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We can be confident of God's mercy because our child is in the covenant. Is within the covenant. So
because we're not saying he stopped fasting because I know he's elect. He wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
But he knows that the one thing that he does know is that his child is within the covenant because the covenant is to the father and the father's household. Yeah.
So David actually, so the way we would see it is David actually understands God's mercy to such a great degree that he can rely on it. He can depend on it.
Yeah.
He could fall on it.
Yeah.
And that's what he does throughout his life. When he does sin, like even with the census, he falls upon God's mercy, and he chooses the plague, right, which decimates 70,000 people in 3 days, something
because
like that.
Because of the census, right?
Because of the census, right? But he would fall on God's mercy, and God would stop at the threshing floor. And, because God would have mercy. So he wouldn't go in Jerusalem and David wouldn't be killed and things like that. And so there's all this thing where we both understand, Reformed Baptists and the Presbyterian both understand that we fall upon God's mercy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the covenantal status that's different. So I think it's good that Reformed Baptists would fall upon God's mercy and in that have confidence. But Presbyterians are more sure because not only do we fall upon God's mercy has shown us, a manifestation of that mercy in the covenant sign.
Yeah.
That's what we would say.
And I want to actually put a pause on our conversation there and revisit this because there's a lot more that I want to ask and kind of get through in terms of the sign of the covenant and circumcision and baptism. And I think this is, I don't want to rush it, and I think it's kind of worth our time to dive into it a little bit more next week. And so we will pause there, put a pause in it, what do they say? Put a pin on the donkey today?
No, just put a pin in it is fine. There's no donkey.
So thank you for that, Pastor Gene. We'll continue our conversation next week and on to our current events. Last week, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a Congress member, posted on social media of her freezing her eggs during Congress's August recess, which would seem like a private thing, and it is, like TMI almost, but she posted it. She says that it's a personal decision, but she's sharing it on Instagram for everybody to see. And I have to say, I in order to research this, I had to go through her Instagram and go through her stories. It's a lot of content that I had to go through. And so a lot of this is just from articles because I couldn't go through a lot of it. I didn't want to. And so on this video, as she is putting the syringe into her abdomen, which she shows on Instagram.
Brian looked up abdomen.
Yeah, on the thorax, I think we said last week.
Thorax, not an abdomen, but yeah.
In the abdomen, she says, "Don't be weird about this." And in the video, she said that she was seeking to destigmatize the realities of women's lives as they navigate the conflicting demands of professional aspiration and family building. She would kind of compare men's aspirations and women's aspirations as how she's trying to destigmatize like the differences there. She also said that she'd be paying for this 100% out of pocket, and that's not covered by insurance, and that she's been saving up for it to afford it. And she said, this is a choice that I am making to feel more in control of my life. So why are we talking about this? Why did I have to research this for a long time? Because, AOC, and maybe you might disagree with this, but I think
disagree.
You don't even know what I'm going to say. AOC is a
I'll
congresswoman.
just disagree. We'll see.
AOC is a congresswoman.
I disagree.
AOC seems to have the heart of liberals in the U.S., maybe even Democrats. And she's almost like a generational mouthpiece for a worldview that is very popular in our country. I mean, the rumors are she is going to be running for president, and rumors are right now the polls are saying that she's beating out Gavin Newsom, and so she may be the Democratic candidate for presidency. And so I think she kind of, she's very hip, right? She goes on Twitch. She streams on Twitch, and she goes on Instagram Live and all this other stuff. And so she's catering to a lot of the young people, and the young people think she's awesome, she's fun, she's spunky. I don't know if that's the word. Spunky? Is that?
Spunky's a word.
It's like a what is it? Is that cool? Is that what it is?
Spunk. Is
Quirky is not.
Yeah.
She has
Spunky's like a pep.
She has like a pep in her step. So she's a little spunkster, if you will. No,
I will.
No, I don't like that one. She's a little spunky. No.
Is it because she's single? Now that you treat her different? No. It's so weird.
So she's a little spunky, and so the young people love her. And so that's why we're talking about it, because she seems to kind of be the face of this new generation and the worldview that our younger people have in this country. So your thoughts on this? You wanted to talk about this, and I had to do so much research and look through Instagram.
Yeah, you got to give me a question. What do you mean, my thoughts?
I don't know. I had to look through all her stories and stuff like that. It took a long time, and
I do think I think AOC and the character that she portrays, because she is an actress, and I think that's what most people on, let's say, the internet now, they are training to be Hippocrates, right? Right, John Sugi Bibi? He talked about this.
What's that? Is that Latin? She is Latina, so it would make sense.
It's Greek, but sure. And
Greek.
Yeah, I have some thoughts. It is indicative of our times, and if she does become president, or if she doesn't run for president, I do believe that 100% she's going to run for Senate, because I do believe that's what she thinks she belongs in a place of power.
Yeah.
This former bartender, and who doesn't know anything about economics. But
we're all former bartenders, though,
Yeah, we're all Hippocrates.
Not me.
In a sense,
Not me. I'm just Kratos.
So, yeah, I think some of the things that she does, she knowingly does, willingly does. Sometimes she doesn't know what she's doing, but she's imitating that. If you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it, but you're doing it, you're imitating something.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with this theatrical performance that Bernie Sanders has done. Bernie Sanders is huge. And what AOC is doing is she's able to capture that kind of passion that Bernie Sanders was able to capture in this country.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders passed no law. He did actually nothing of note that will put his name on that's passed in his what? How long has he been in Congress? For like 40 years?
Yeah,
40 years, whatever it is. He's done nothing of subsequence or anything substantive, right?
Yeah.
And so this guy, but he does go around and, he's morphed over the years from railing against millionaires. But once he became a millionaire, he starts railing against billionaires.
That's the next step.
We got to get rid of the billionaire class, so he gets rid of it.
He does that.
Yeah, and then he's like, it's not fair that we do this. He does one of those things. He's like, how is it fair? He has this, and it really resonates with people who feel like they've been disenfranchised because of the state. And his solution is more state, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But
socialist,
she has captured it, right? She's captured that sentiment and discontent that a lot of people have. How dare, burritos cost $20 or whatever the burrito gate is, or whatever gate it is now, if it's past burrito gate. But what she does, though, is, and I don't know if she's doing willingly, or knowingly, but she is doing it where she'll post something online and say, "This is about. Don't be weird about it," but it's something that you should be weird about. But she goes, "Don't be weird about it."
But
and
I know you will
she
be.
starts
Is what she says.
injecting
Yep.
chemicals into herself so that she could
Yep.
produce more eggs, so they could harvest the eggs, so that she could freeze them, so
Yep.
that later on in life, if she chooses to have a baby, she can have a baby through IVF.
Yep.
So don't be weird about it, but it's weird, right? Don't make this don't make this a public thing. It's a private thing, but she's doing it publicly.
Yep.
So she's doing all these things which are counter-cultural, and I do believe that whether she knowingly does it or not, it's everything that the conservatives believe to be true or reality, right? This is reality. This is what's true. She puts out a counter-narrative, and she goes, don't be weird about it, right? So if you are going to, let's say, people freezing their eggs, it could be because of some kind of real personal health issue that they have. It could be.
Yeah.
But now what she wants to do is, now she has personal ambitions, and she wants to put making babies on hold.
Yeah.
And so it's a personal issue, not, let's say it's a personal ambition issue, not a personal health issue. But then, later on it might be. So she doesn't want to go through that, so she's going to freeze her eggs. So one of the things that we get to see through this movement and change and progression is that what she does, maybe knowingly, but I think unknowingly or unwittingly, what she's doing out there, she's putting a counter-Christian cultural narrative out there saying, don't be weird about this. Stop
This is
talking
normal.
about this.
This
This
is
my
good.
private. She does all these things that's supposed to confuse you from like 5 different angles.
Yep.
It's my private life, but she's putting out there publicly. Or this is normal, but it's not normal. No one ever thought this was normal, that kind of thing. But it should be normal. Because in the end, what is up should be down. What is left should be right. What was private should be the state's. That's what I believe the move is. Whatever was private should be the state's.
Yeah.
And so that's what socialism is. Everything that was in the private arena gets pushed to the public, and public is controlled by the state. So what's interesting is people really want statism, whether it's socialism, communism, or some form of state control. They want that.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting because our young people, what we get to absorb and really feel connected with is discontent. That's really easy. If a congressman went out there and was like, things are really good right now, and if you elect me, I think we'll be good too. Because like, who's going to vote for this guy?
Status quo, yeah.
Who's going to vote for this guy? But if you go out there and be like, burritos are $20, you know who's doing that? This guy's doing that.
Yeah.
Chipotle, the big oligarchs. That's how he goes. The oligarchy, and he says that, right? The
What
oligarchs
accent
are
is
doing
that?
this. It's a Brooklyn accent.
Isn't he from Vermont?
Yeah, but I think he grew up in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
It's a Jewish Brooklyn accent. But
Okay.
And so he talks about the oligarchy. It's these other guys, these rich people that are doing this to you because of their corporate greed.
Right.
And so it really resonates because you feel like, man, if it wasn't for these guys, my burrito would be $13 or it would be $10 or maybe even $5. But because of these corporate greedy, terrible people, my burrito is this much, and I can't buy a house because I gotta eat this $20 burrito. When am I gonna save up for a house? So I blame these guys, and that really resonates with a lot of young people because do you have a house? If you're young, do you have a house? No. Guess what? It's not your fault.
It's the burrito.
It's these huge burrito oligarchies. It's them that really got you into it. So I think for us as a Christian, we have to recognize that if you are fed this stream, this diet, continuous diet of discontent, and we start to nibble on it and eat it, then we become people that are not grateful.
Yeah.
We become people of envy, of covetousness, of this kind of desire that we actually did talk about with Abel and Cain. I do believe we did a episode on that,
On competition.
Yep. And envy, and the difference between what's healthy and what's not. What's not is actually life-threatening. It's not just destructive. It's life-threatening because of what Cain did to Abel.
Yeah.
But what's good competition, what's healthy is lost to us because we're just so discontent with everything. If it wasn't for this, I'd be this.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you, I'd be better. That's how all these people think.
Yeah.
And so that's fed into our, minds. It's literally in our bloodstream, not literally, but literally I mean figuratively. And so it's literally in our bloodstream. And this is how we see the world now. We see the world as, I can't make it because of you, these guys.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not successful. Never mind the fact that you spend most of your time not building yourself,
eating
not
burritos.
becoming better, not, exercising or reading or thinking or reflecting or working hard, not doing any of those things, but just blaming. And so that is a disease. So if AOC does get anywhere in power, just know that this kind of narrative is powerful.
Yeah.
And it shows us the state that our country is in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this whole egg video thing is a small thing that's indicative of, a corrosion that has been in our culture for a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, when you when you look at the Instagram stuff, it's uncomfortable, but I did it for the sake of this podcast, so.
Thank you for sacrificing yourself.
Like 20 minutes. She's very long-winded.
I hear that people love her, though.
So when I do research on her, the articles are very positive. People love her. People love the fact that she's single now. And they would connect her to Penelope from the Odyssey, saying that she has to now pick a suitor, and people will always all be crowding for her hand in not marriage, but in hand in whatever, dating and just partnership.
Everybody has to have a comment on everything, but of all the comments that I've seen, I haven't seen many. All the comments that I've seen, I do believe that there was one comment that stood out. I think it was his pseudonym is Clavicular or something like that.
He said he's the look maxer. Yeah, he wants to date her or something, right?
No, he said, I can fix her. That was a good one.
That's pretty good.
That's a good one. Okay.
Speaking of Penelope, let's go to our media and culture segment. We saw The Odyssey this past week, and we saw Spider-Man. And these, we watched these two movies in particular because, first of all, I have not seen a movie in a long time, but I thought that The Odyssey and Spider-Man, these are the blockbusters of the summer. And I thought this is what everyone's watching, and it's going to shape the way that we see the world, maybe even because it's so popular now, and it's made over $1 billion. Both of them have made over $1 billion. And so everyone's watching it, everyone's talking about it, everyone's thinking about it. So I thought we should address it.
Yeah, we should address it because you like Spider-Man better.
Better? Yeah.
Yeah,
you
still think about Spider-Man. You
I don't think about. It's because the staff keeps on sending me clips about Spider-Man, so I can't stop.
There was a listener that talked to me. He said that he stopped listening. He had to put our podcast on pause because he thought we would spoil Spider-Man. But I said we didn't spoil anything. He said okay, because I guess we just spoil things without saying spoiler.
No, I didn't spoil anything.
I guess you do that.
I don't do anything.
What do you do then?
Who knows? But we did watch The Odyssey, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. I know you gave a short kind of excerpt on the sirens and the siren song before, which I thought was really beneficial for us, and just kind of connecting it to the modern day and doom scrolling and how we spend our time. I thought the movie was really good. And I kind of told you this after the movie too. As I was watching the movie, I remembered reading the Odyssey. So when I was a kid, I read it, and I'm sure I read it in a kid version or something, I'm sure. But when I was younger, I read the Odyssey. And as I was watching the movie, what I remember, it started to come back a little bit. And there are some parts where I was kind of I would consider to be my favorite part of the Odyssey. We're not in the film, so I was a little sad about that. I'm not going to spoil it here.
You're not going to spoil the Odyssey? It's over after this.
I know, but...
After this week, I don't know if they're showing it. Are they showing it?
They stopped showing it, and guess who's taking over? Spider-Man. But I think, one of my favorite parts of the Odyssey, like the original, is the Cyclops cave, because it traumatized me. And so that's one scene and one part of the Odyssey that I really continue to think about, if I ever think about the Odyssey. And I thought a huge part of that was when the Cyclops asks him, "Who are you?" And he says, "No man or nobody." That's how Odysseus responds, right? And then, so when the Cyclops is telling Poseidon, and Poseidon asks him, "Who did this to you?" He says, "No man or nobody did this to me." I thought that was super clever, and that stayed with me. And the sheep thing, but that's just little details. I thought the movie was great. I thought it was a little slow at the beginning. I thought it really picked up, and for me, it really made me think about death a lot, because in the movie, and this isn't spoiling anything again, but in our Western culture, we do everything to prevent death. So even like working out, even going to the doctors, everything that we do, medicine, all of that in essence is really to prevent death or to push it back as far as possible, because I think we fear death a lot. But in this movie, you don't stop seeing death. It happens constantly. And I think one of the biggest parts is, one of the biggest burdens that Odysseus has is all these people have died because of his decision-making, because of what he's done, his leadership. That's why these people die. And so death is constant, which made me think, like, back in that time, death really must have been a constant thing. And so for us, we try to push it back. We are scared of it. We don't really know what it's about. But in the ancient world, death was a very common thing. And people just die. In the movie, it seems like people die for, like, no reason. Like, even the Trojan War is over a woman. Everyone dies.
Well, I just said no spoilers. Okay.
Wait, but that's but
the spoilers are in from now on.
Wait, that's not
you
a spoiler.
You have to say it.
Wait, people die in the Trojan War. Why is that a spoiler? So it's just, it continued to make me think about death and how it's inevitable, and just kind of where we are as a society and the view of death, and where the most of mankind throughout human history view death and how it's different now. So it just kind of made me reflect on that.
Oh, nice. So you liked it. It makes you think.
I did like it a lot. There was one quote that I really, really thought was good. This is not spoiling anything.
I don't care if you spoil it.
And the quote was, and this is what...
that's a spoiler, right? That's literally in the movie.
No, but this is irrelevant. But this is irrelevant to, like...
It doesn't matter. It's in the movie. That's a spoiler.
Wait, what? So this is what he says. Matt Damon says, "What we most want is what we cannot have, and what we cannot have is what we had and already lost." That's a bar. That's like a hard line right there. I was like, man, you should tattoo that on your chest or something, Odysseus, because you just dropped the bar. That's a hot one. Not to be confused with Hot Ones, the wing eating.
That's true.
That's true. That's true. Andy be saying some things too.
So Andy Bernard, the character of Andy Bernard.
That's true.
Yeah, I said that in The Office.
Yeah. He said, "What if these are the good old days?" Something like that, right?
No, we always talk about the good old days.
Yeah.
What if they were there?
Yeah.
And they're just in the past or something like that.
Yeah. But I thought the whole movie was really good. It makes you think a lot. Again, I'm not ruining anything. This story's been out for 1,600 years. So if you don't know
3,000.
That's on you. Like, if you don't know the Odyssey, that's on you, man. Read a book. Sorry, take that back. Sorry.
Read a book. Yeah. I think the funny thing is, so here's some spoilers.
No, wait. I don't know if we can spoil stuff.
Well, you could just say, here are some spoilers, and if you don't want to listen to it, you could skip over to our next chapter. That makes sense.
But we won't tell them what the next chapter is. I'm going to spoil it.
It shows you in Spotify when the next chapter.
No, when we go to the next chapter, I'm going to spoil something.
You can't just randomly spoil. But the part that Sam really thought wasn't fully done, that he felt like, I wish there was more to it, was the episode of Polyphemus, right? Of the Cyclops.
Yes.
And the Cyclops scene, I thought, was so well done. I thought it was incredibly well done. And so I was waiting for some details, and what Nolan was able to do is he was able to capture and keep the major details, but also leave out some details that we thought were also major.
Yes.
But
yeah.
In the end, I guess it wasn't that major. That's what that's what you kind of tend to believe, because the whole nobody thing.
Yeah.
It's almost as if so. In Homer's epic, you see the episode of Polyphemus or the Cyclops, where he tricks him. Right? He tricks him by saying, "What's your name? My name is Nobody."
Yep.
And then when he stabs him in the eye, because he couldn't get the gate open. Remember that slab of rock? You needed 22 wagons to maybe open it, but they didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
And so they needed the Cyclops to open it themselves,
right,
or himself. And so he doesn't stab him in the heart. He stabs him in the eye. He says, "What's your name? My name is Nobody." And then he starts screaming, "Nobody is killing me," right? Nobody is hurting me, or nobody is attacking me, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he's screaming. The English translation is really interesting here, because most English translations will say nobody's killing me by cunning or treachery. But there is a play on words in the Greek that you see here, nobody, and then when the other Cyclops go, "What's going on?" And then, "Why are you screaming if nobody's hurting you?" That word can be also read as, "What's going on? Why are you screaming if cunning or treachery is hurting you?" And so there's some kind of Greek play on word play here, which is pretty epic. Well, then that's all lost. Okay, he does pray to Poseidon, which they mention, and so that's why the reason why Odysseus has such a hard time at sea is because now Poseidon is against him, but Zeus forbids Poseidon from killing him. But that's why he kills all of his other crew members. Now this is in the book, not in the movie.
No, this is this is been around. Okay. This has been around the block.
So no spoilers have been spoiled yet.
No.
But some of these details were left out from the movie.
Yeah.
And so the spoiler is that the nobody is not in there.
No.
He never says nobody.
No.
And the whole treachery part isn't there.
Yeah.
So the reason why Odysseus is such an intriguing character, and why in Dante's Inferno that Odysseus is in the 7th level of hell, he's like in the lowest level of hell. He's like, because Odysseus was known by his treachery.
Yeah.
But none of that is really shown in this movie. In fact, the only real treachery that we see Odysseus do, and by the way, all throughout Homer's epic, Odysseus is this trickster.
Yeah.
And through his wiles and cunning, he gets all the victories. He's that smart.
Yeah.
But the only real one that we see, it's all boiled down to this one thing, which is the Trojan horse.
Yep.
Which is in the Iliad, not really
in
the Odyssey, right? And so he brings in some other stuff from other Homer's works. So it's in the Iliad, and in the Trojan War, this Trojan horse goes in, and they are able to sack Troy because of it.
Yeah.
And so they showed that episode in the movie. The reason why I thought it was so well done is because they take all of Odysseus's cunning out. Some people hated it, but I loved it. And they just kept it to the Trojan horse. So the Trojan horse, or the Trojan War, is at the focal point of everything. The reason why all these things are happening is because of the Trojan War. So you got to go back to the Trojan War. And then you go to the very end of the movie where he has this monologue, which you quoted from, because he's talking to his wife, Penelope, behind the screen. And he has this monologue. And he mentions something like the Bronze Age is over or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, he wouldn't know when the Bronze Age would be over. They don't know that they're in the Bronze Age even. That was named after the ages were over. People would name, this is the Bronze Age. So he doesn't know. So why would Odysseus say that this is the Bronze Age is ending? Why is that even a part of the monologue? It's almost ridiculous.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought that was brilliant. So they took all the tricksterish stuff out and just saw a very somber, a very reflective, a pensive Odysseus, and the trick was just in Troy, and in the very end where he has to kill 108 suitors. It wasn't 108 in the movie because 108 kind of seemed maybe unrealistic to Nolan, perhaps.
The room was a little small for 108.
Yeah, it was more like 40. I don't know, whatever it was. Right?
There was a lot of people.
A lot of people, but yeah, it had to be 108 because it has to do with constellations and distance and size of the moon and sun and all that stuff. But we won't get into that. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
So for me, again, this is my interpretation. I didn't hear this from anybody because I don't think it's necessarily true, but we only saw it, what is it, yesterday? We saw it 2 days ago or something like that. Yeah. So it's still kind of roaming around in my head. I think at the very end, that monologue was Chris Nolan talking. So I think he was talking through the character of Odysseus, and he was saying, this age is over.
Yeah.
And the age is over because of this one massive event.
Yep.
And the massive event was the Trojan horse, or the Trojan War, and the deception behind it.
Yep.
And the deception behind it really destroyed our, this age. It's over. So the new age is going to come, but this age is going to be over. We don't know what the new age will bring, but this age is currently over because of this deception that started it all. So the ships from the sea are coming. Remember?
Yeah.
The ships from the sea are coming. It's going to destroy us. And the ships of the sea, he's like, it's already here. I'm part of it. It's Odysseus going in with this knowledge and revelation that what the Trojan horse brought. It's almost as if he brought in this idea of the opening of Pandora's box and you can't close it anymore. This deception that was dishonorable, that you shouldn't do in war. Because of that, all these women and children were killed. Now we see here. So I think Christopher Nolan is also looking at this world now where all these women and children are being killed in war. And maybe it's a liberal view, conservative view, whatever it is, it's a view that he has. And he thinks that the whole world age is ending because you can't close this Pandora's box.
Nothing is sacred anymore.
Yeah, and
Nothing
so that's I think that's the theme of the running theme of the movie. People didn't like it, and the people that didn't like it, I asked them why they didn't like it, and I think I can kind of boil it down to one thing. People don't like it for various reasons, but if you are going to go to a historical movie, you need to be kept in it, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that are going to take you out from, let's say, you being kept in the movie. So here's this premise. I could tell you a story. I'll give you a premise, and then, boom, I bring you into this world. But what's going to kick you out? Something that just doesn't belong.
Sure.
Or if a baby cries from the outside, then you lose focus, right?
Right.
So inside the movie, some things just kicked you out.
Like the DEI.
The DEI kicked people out. Elliot Page.
Yep.
Running across the beach with the armor, kicked people out.
That wasn't a man's run.
And the voice that Elliot used, I don't know what voice it was. It was like a very manufactured, she's trying way too hard.
I was impressed because I was like, wow, you're keeping this up the entire time.
But
you have a monologue in here.
It's like a kid trying to act like an adult.
Yeah.
So it could kick you out. Some people said when Tom Holland's character, the son of Odysseus, I forget his name.
Yeah.
When he would call Penelope mom or dad.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to say that? Why can't you just say father or mother?
So it's like the small things that kind of bring you out of the...
Right, kicks you out of the movie, right?
Yeah.
So when you're immersed in something and then you're like, what is that about?
Yeah,
It was unnecessary. And you want to keep... So when people give historical narratives, people have more of a formal take on it, but he had a really informal kind of display of it. So you'll see, like, Odysseus' son call him dad. Or call his mom instead of mother, right?
But then in all those historical movies, we always use British accents. And I never noticed, like, why.
Right, because it immerses us into, this was the past.
Right.
So when you use, like, accents or you use formal language, when you use honorifics, it brings you to the past.
Yeah.
And so he would use modern English,
he didn't
even when he would be running away from the area of Hades. He would be like, "Let's go!"
Yeah.
Like who would say that?
Right.
I mean, if someone goes,
"Let us goeth,"
or something to that effect, right? Or even if he said run, that would have been okay.
Sure.
Right. Run ye, or to save
Run ye!
to save ye lives. But yeah, I mean, if they said something like that, you'd be like, it'd
that
be
makes
kept
sense.
in it, right?
Yeah.
And so some of these things, so the critics will say, whatever pulled you away made it terrible for you.
I see.
So if I were to summarize or try to put everything in, why people didn't like it, and I have to say it didn't pull me away. So for me, I wasn't pulled away by anything, either the DEI or the modern language. I thought it was funny. When Odysseus's second in command, I forget his name too, but he would go to a Greek man and he'd be like, "We are Greek," and the guy's like speaking Greek. He's like, "Yo, translate this for me to Greek."
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
It didn't pull me away. Not entirely. So there are some parts that almost pulled me away, but it didn't completely.
Right.
But here are some criticisms I could say about the movie. The main portions of the entire movie was about, again, his journey from Troy to his revelation or understanding. This was, again, this is my interpretation of the opening of Pandora's box. That's never going to be closed. That means it's the end of this age. He has two, basically. He basically has two consciences that run throughout. And one is Sinon, and the other is Athena.
Yep.
So there's two that run throughout the entire film that act as a conscience. And the fact that they had Elliot Page play Sinon was almost pulled me out. It's not someone that anybody really could relate to. Right. This is, really a guy that he has wronged, didn't tell anything, right?
Right.
That's weird. That was just weird. And then Athena was something that also carried. Athena didn't really pull me out. I mean, why Athena's Athena.
I mean, she's very Dune-esque in this movie.
But you know why she played Athena at the very end, right? At the very end, they show you why Athena is Athena. And so we won't spoil that for you, but those two are... So if you're watching, you can use this as a guide. Those two act as his conscience across the movie. And that's why I think if you have this running theme, that's how you cut short Calypso's episode of him eating lotus flowers and forgetting for 7 years. This is in the book, but they cut it to little blips. And Cersei's episode.
Yeah. I like that part too, actually.
She actually gives instruction to Odysseus after, but in the movie she doesn't. She's just a plain old witch that is just bad, that kind of thing. But you feel sorry for her, because she's been cursed by power. I don't know, whatever it is. But so they take some things out and they attribute it to other things. But basically, Homer's epic is reimagined by Nolan. So if you think that you're going to watch Homer's epic put on screen like in its entirety in detail, then that's not what you're there to see. Can I add one detail that I liked?
Yeah.
Okay, so of all the things, what really kept me in was actually what people didn't like. What really kept me in was the music. So this is one of the first blockbuster movies that you don't see an orchestral score for.
Yes.
They didn't have that kind of like Hans Zimmer backing, nothing. What the composer did for the musical score for, just the soundtrack for this movie was he looked up the old instruments
of that era.
Yep. And so he imagined what these old instruments would have sounded like.
Yep.
So that's why you have the siren song with just two notes, because in the old era there were like two flutes that would play. And then so they would do that, and the next time you hear the two notes is when he goes to Penelope. So that kind of like that weird discombobulating noise that are two notes that are almost disharmony that are being played in that very scene, you don't see until he goes to Penelope. So you can kind of see his heart wrenching there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought that continuity in music was actually excellent. Excellent. I think because of the things that would have pulled me out were so... They very nearly pulled me out, like Elliot Page, but the music really kept me in. If it wasn't for the music, I think I would have been pulled out.
It was hot in that theater, though, I'll tell you that. That almost pulled me out.
It was shorter than I thought, but you do need to set aside 3 hours.
You need to go to the bathroom before.
Yeah.
And not drink any
Spider-Man was
liquids.
almost just as long.
But Spider-Man was so good that you don't think about anything else. You're entrenched in that world. So
nothing pulled you out, is the point, right? You're like, wow, I am Peter Parker.
My emotions pulled me out, actually.
Yeah, I am Peter Parker.
I
I love
never would've-
MJ. That's what you were saying.
I'm more of like a Ned. It's like a good friend. Thank you for that, Pastor Eugene. And if you have not watched this movie, would you recommend someone to go watch this movie?
If you have 3 hours to kill, yeah. But
Yeah.
we did it I wouldn't have watched this movie unless you said, let's talk about it.
I would have probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't have watched it. And because of you, I did watch it. And I ended up enjoying it. I think it's a solid B+ movie. Spider-Man is a solid B movie. For me, sorry.
Yeah.
7.5 to 8. I think this is that was Spider-Man. I would give Odyssey like a solid 8.
I would give Spider-Man probably like 9.9, and then I'll probably give this probably like a 8.9.
Which is very good, actually.
Yeah, it's like 89
It's
is
very
B+. You're right there. Right
I
there
know.
with
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for your thoughts on that. Thank you, Pastor Gene. And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith.
Peace.